Hello, welcome, and anyone who is watching online. It's the 11th of October and it's the Resilience Accreditation Programme open event. So we are delighted to have a number of people who are interested in the programme, and anyone who's watching, we hope that your questions will get answered in this, but feel free to email in if not. So I'm going to share a slide deck, and hopefully we will manage to get all your questions through, and if not, as I say, we can pick them up on the back end. First of all, yeah, you're not on mute. we have quite a lot of people who come into these sorts of things, so please, just since we're just a small crew today, let's actually all come in proper conversation together. It is being recorded. We should go to 1 o'clock on the dot, and make sure that you're asking any questions. If things come up, pop them in the chat room or jot them down on a piece of paper and just come in. We'll be quite informal in this session today. So I've introduced myself. Rebecca, Rudy, do you want to also say hello?
Yeah, so I'm Rebecca Walker. I have the privilege of being faculty on the programme along with Anne Archer, who isn't with us today, but hugely experienced practitioner. You may well have seen her on LinkedIn, but she's worked with Jenny for many years, since the beginning of the Resilience Dynamic. I'm also an executive coach, working with individuals, teams, and on leadership programmes. So it's really great to be with you all today.
I'm Rudy. I'm an executive coach and mentor. Initially, I'm from Belgium. I'm Flemish. You can hear I'm not English. And I had the privilege to go through the program a few years ago, and the privilege to apply the insights from the program. And I will be sharing that with you later on today.
Lovely. So welcome, and thank you very much for you guys coming in. So our agenda today, I'm going to talk a little bit about why resilience, and we'll hear from you about what's interesting in this for you. Rebecca will cover the actual nuts and bolts of the accreditation programme, and so that should actually help you really understand what it is, the modules, the supervision, how practical it is. Rudy will take you through kind of actually what's the real, from the horse's mouth, really what it was like, and Q&A. What we'd say is, if there's anything that comes up, particularly about the accreditation programme itself while Rebecca's speaking, don't hesitate, just come in then, and then we can take more generic questions at the end. So who are we? I think it's important to know we've evolved enormously. You might have known our brand name, and Liz, I know you did, the Resilience Engine, and that's the sort of one of the core research models that was created back in 2009 now, actually, and we've rebranded all our service the Resilience Dynamic, and that's the other main research model that you would be applying through the programme. And it is the most accessible, most used. I've written a book about it. People really get it quite quickly, and it's strategically critical that it creates a sort of common language across any organisation where it's being applied. So we've rebranded all our service the Resilience Dynamic with a funky little brand. We're research backed. We have to update this because we've got an awful lot of quantitative research as well as qualitative, but been in the game for a long time. Anne was part of that research consortium. We adopt this framework. In this domain, we see a lot of blind spots, and we see a lot of things, of problems being attributed to, say, behavioural issues, where actually there's underlying root cause, which is potentially resilience and under strain. And what we've come to understand is, if we equip our clients and our client organisations with the ability to see themselves more clearly, they really then engage much more critically in it and for the long term, and then they move to understand and optimise. So that's the framework that we adopt in all of the Resilience Dynamic services, of which there are a couple. So the dashboard, it's a technology application that actually allows people to assess and track, and then there's some online learning, and then of course you know that we're coaches, and so the activation of this very often is through the coaching, and we've got an absolutely fantastic, very vibrant community of practice. There's about 100 of us, some in mainland Europe, a little bit in Asia Pac, mainly in the UK, and we seek to continue to learn, because the field of resilience, well-being, mental health, the applicability of it is phenomenally changing, and we continue to research, and so we get together and learn and share and support one another. So that's pretty fab, and I'm sure that both Rebecca and particularly Rudy will talk about that. So that's who we are. Just to give you a flavour of self-assessment, this is available once you're accredited and go through some further CPD. We offer a simple self-assessment for people, and a lot of our practitioners use this. This is free off our website, and people use it in group work. And so, you know, that's a really fab kind of resource. And then one that's we require clients to go through a debrief is the Resilience Dynamic Questionnaire, much more in depth, can be done at team level, organizational level, etc. And our dashboard actually can mix and match the two. So that's just a flavor of one of those things that you get. And another is a new service that we've got, which is a coaching informed service called Check In, Check Out, which offers a process for building psychological safety. Okay, now a number of the community are associates of ours, and they get involved in delivery of programs and coaching programs. Not everybody is. It doesn't suit them. They've got their own practice. They're too busy with whatever. But these are opportunities that are potentially available to you. But before I go into anything else, so that's a bit about us. What brings you here? I wonder. Maybe you could come off mute and just sort of say a few things, what's grappling for yourself or maybe with your clients that has brought you in today. Why resilience?
I can go first. I guess it's resilience in the workplace. There's a lot of change happening, but also resilience in my personal life with, I guess, how the market is and the effect that it has on everybody. So just to have that adaptability mindset would be very beneficial.
Lovely, thanks.
Yeah, and as Jenny alluded to, sort of being sort of alongside Jenny's work for sort of walking alongside. I wouldn't say always deeply and steeped in it, but always aware of it and interested and staying connected to it. So and I've gone through a lot of change in terms of work. I'm sure everyone has as well. But so it's maybe just the opportunity now to take stock and think about what I want to do. And so I'm come back to sort of revisit and refresh really and connect to it again.
Lovely. Thanks, Liz.
Likewise, all the coaching conversations I have touch on resilience in some shape or form, and quite often I'm working with somebody and issues have been identified with them in the workplace, but I can't help feeling that at the root of much of this, as you've said, is resilience, personal and organisational, and so I'm very curious to learn more.
Lovely. Well,
and I think I echo that, actually. I think it's just showing up in a lot of my coaching. And I think I just really like to develop my knowledge, skills, etc., and really add value in the coaching that I'm doing with individuals and groups. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And actually, I think everybody who comes, not everybody, but I think everybody coming out of the programme has substantially invested in themselves and continue to invest in their own resilience, as well as then applying it in clients or in organizations. So about a third of the community of practice are internal practitioners. and they have a really different lens. So they might not be coaching per se, but they might be developing a policy. They might be offering workshops or drop-ins. In COVID, the number of different ways in which they operated was phenomenal. And, you know, if they're offering internal stuff half day or 1 day sort of, you know, group work or conversations around it, they're always sold out. So they're very busy people. So we see that there are two main reasons that get presented, if you like, of why clients are interested in resilience. The first is well-being issues. So this is just some data, for example, from our own research and also McKinsey. So 2022, McKinsey's Health Institute had an enormous survey done. And I mean, what's shocking in there is almost 50% feel that they're burnt out. Right, and that's across 66 countries. So it's a really, really, I mean, that's just massive. And I think some of that will be a tail effect from COVID. And I think you've probably seen that in your client organizations where people have been coping or aiming to punch through or get through it. And now there's a sort of like, well, we're done with the pandemic. Now we've got to go on with all the other complexities, whether it's supply chain issues or, you know, disruption in the industry or, you know, lack of budget or whatever. And actually, we just keep sort of, we're trying to get more out of the same people, and yet we haven't actually offered proper recovery. And I think that's really interesting. So our world is set up to sort of be in what we would call bounce back, where we sort of punch through challenges, but we don't take account of the cost of that. And actually, the better way to operate is to proactively manage and create some surplus capacity for these kind of disruptive events. So you know, that's some, and then we've actually got some data, you know, basically people are really tired. So a lot of clients that we see might, you know, you're saying it comes up in much of your coaching, and it might come up because of a genuine well-being issue, or, you know, they're trading on their well-being in order to be able to continue to deliver performance. But then there are other things like being stuck, or some of the impact of stress, negative stress reaction. So procrastination or short-termism, or, you know, these are the two dominant ones. So if, you know, we know that about 40% of the workforce, if they're feeling really stressed, they'll actually kick things into the long grass and procrastinate. So, you know, you've got these kind of tensions that actually then get created, and inefficiency. So what sits behind, if you're coaching leadership teams or leaders, is actually the assumptions over what is going on versus actually, if you look at really what's going on behind the scenes, it might be that they need a boost of resilience. So that's one thing. So it presents often as a problem on well-being. But the other is the complexity, and I know that you'll know about VUCA. I mean, what was sort of a bandied about term in COVID, you know, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, and that was actually coined, I think, back in sort of post-war, actually, for the complexities. It was driven by the US government about external drivers. But an awful lot of what we see now is what is now termed as BANI, and it's a much more human-centric way of thinking about complexity. Basically, you know, we think about things being you know, change coming, and that we can see it down the line, but it's actually much more sudden. And actually, we make, for example, the illusion of strength of processes, we'll be okay, and then all of a sudden we can't. Our supply chain doesn't stand up, or, you know, the anxiety that's caused by overwhelm of information, you know, predictability, etc. So actually, this is now being called out really strategically, that we need resilience and adaptability and a human-centered approach, you know, attention, etc. So a lot of that speaks to a coaching style. And they're kind of a core reason why, you know, you might get into this work, whether you're an internal coach or whether you're an internal OD practitioner, or it's presenting as, you know, your professional coaching. So those are two big sort of drivers. And actually what we do know in the end is that it comes down to almost an equation between the sense of demand upon people, that's their felt demand. So that can be actual tasks, but it also can be pressure, or the sense of unsafety in doing something or showing up, versus their actual capacity. And capacity is quite a strategic capability. It's not just about time, it's mindset and skills, etc. And if there's a gap, you know, you've got a bit of an issue, right? And actually it goes up and down, it moves around, it can drop. And actually the whole of the resilience programme is really sort of unpicking, particularly in the capacity side, but also being able to assess almost the difference between demand and capacity, and therefore what does that client need. So you yourself would be doing it for yourself, you're assisting the client and being able to gauge it, and it's both kind of triggering acceptance of what's going on. So if you're having to cope right now, you're having to cope right now, and actually that has particular implications, versus if you're bounce back, for example, on this, it can go up and down like the yo-yo, and you know, there are implications of that. So we are using that strategically as a kind of way in to understand really what resilience is about, and as we know, it's about adaptability. So, and then the business case is pretty clear for this. This is another organisation in the kind of consulting research field, Josh Bersin, if you don't know them, really, really leading edge stuff. And the business outcomes for getting into healthy high performance is a no-brainer. It's just basically a no-brainer. The Google case study here is something that we have worked on for 2-3 years with Google, actually helping them with a resilience program worldwide. And actually, again, increase in psychological safety, increase in resilience within 4 months. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer, right? So that's good news. And it means that there's more work around, you know, for you guys as coaches. So that's kind of where I wanted to kind of give you the generic view. If you take really what a resilience coach does that's different than coaching, we see it almost like a golden thread. It comes up, you said, a lot in your coaching already. And it provides a kind of rigorous framework underneath almost everything you do. So it's systemic. You are pacing work according to that demand capacity kind of equation, and that adaptability of your client or not, if they are stuck. It's about, when the groups and teams, it's enabling resilience in and between them. And your own resilience as a practitioner. Some of this stuff is quite tough, and actually you need to invest in yourself in order to be able to ensure that you are practicing in a safe way. And then for internal practitioners also, there are all sorts of things, as I've said, that they offer, and so they can work quite differently. And then, you know, they may be having to influence culturally, coaching culture, or, you know, a resilient kind of leadership philosophy, processes, etc. Could be policy, and you know, they may actually be in the end the owners of looking at really what's going on and the truth of it in the organization. So what you may find in this is that if you go through the program, you kind of undo slightly on many parts of your existing practice, and then reconnect them all up, just a bit tuned up. You know, it's like having oil in the engine, so it actually flows more clearly, and your clients will end up actually, you know, your work will have more clear impact in the way that they need it to do. So that's what we sort of think resilience coach is, what you know, what the difference is. And then these are the two models that we use that I've referred to already. The resilience dynamic, which is an explanation really of what resilience is. So about that adaptability. You can see this diagram almost as a spectrum of psychological safety, from breakdown all the way through to breakthrough. And you chew and tussle with this enormously through the lens of your own resilience and client. The program is very practical, so you really have to work with lots of people, and not so lots of people, you have to do a lot of work, of which you get a lot of supervision, and you're tussling with this kind of, where are my clients, what therefore can they expect of themselves? Coping is not the same as bounce back, where's the demand versus capacity, fragmentation. That's where burnout exists, and also some aspects of depression and anxiety can be triggered in here. That's where people are no longer coping. So the resilience dynamic is a very, very strong frame, and has strategic implications. And then the resilience engine is the kind of nuts and bolts behind the scenes. It's kind of what powers that, and actually how you enter that and how you integrate those two models as part of the program also. So I think I am done, and I think I'll hand over to Rebecca to explain a bit more about the program.
Thank you, Jenny. This is a tough one because I think we all just want to stay with the work and kind of delve into resilience now, but I'm going to take you right into the actual program itself. And although Rudy's going to take you through the actual experience of being on the program, I too went through the program a number of years ago. And I think, to echo what Jenny just said, really, when you've done this program, it's really difficult to unsee it. So, even if you're not explicitly using the work with clients, whether that's internally, whether that's with teams, whether that's with individuals, you're constantly holding that, okay, where do I think they are on that dynamic? Where is it within the engine that's got the smallest cog? What's going on for them? How am I going to pace this work? Where is the stuckness? Because I think that's what drew me to the program, was those clients where you're thinking, I just don't know why this person isn't shifting. I don't know what's going on here. And through the resilience work, that you just realize that actually meeting them really where they are, and that ability to pace and understand where that gap is, just enables you to see it through a different lens. So it's not getting rid of all your, fabulous experience and all those years that you bring. It's actually just thinking, okay, this is a different lens that can just open up a different way of thinking, coaching, pacing, working together. So yeah, my experience, I think, for my clients, but actually importantly for myself, I wish I'd done this when I was bang in the middle of consultancy life, fast paced. I would have been a lot healthier, and I probably wouldn't have left. So I think it's beneficial to yourself, as Ailish was saying, and to your clients. So I'm going to take you through a rattle through of all the modules that we go through. The basis of the course is that there are 5 core modules, most of which are 3.5 hours long. And then as well as that, you get one-to-one supervision and you get group supervision, with some other elements which I'll go through in a moment. But there are 5 core modules. They start at the beginning of February, and we hang out together until the end of March. And then the group supervision goes on beyond then. So we get a good amount of time to really get to know each other, to learn from each other. Anne and I always learn a huge amount through the program, as well as yourselves. So we get a good chunk of time to work through this together. So module 1 really is to dig into what is resilience. So to take what Jenny's just said and go really deep into that, because your experience of resilience is so formed through your community, through your culture, through your families, through your schooling. There are so many different elements that have formed our own perceptions and our own views of resilience, that we do spend that whole module really digging deep into that, and then introducing the dynamic model, where we really start to take you through that. Because what we find is that those first few modules, really, people end up coming in thinking about their clients and leave thinking about themselves. Because where you just start to think is, okay, I thought I was here, but actually, you know what, I'm starting to think I'm here, and this is where my gap is. And how is that impacting on my coaching? How is that impacting on how I'm turning up as an internal practitioner? So what you'll find is that you kind of come in with your clients in your head and you leave with yourself. And it really just starts to do that work. So we really dig deep in that first module and kind of create that lovely psychological safety that kind of continues then through into the community. So then into module 2, we really look into the relationship between resilience, stress and well-being. So taking all of those statistics that Jenny just said, looking at the science, digging deep into the research and looking at how that really shows up across the dynamic, across the engine, and really starting to think about how the relationship between those three comes out in terms of resilience and performance. So again, you'll get the opportunity to explore that, looking back at previous clients as well. So as Jenny said, you know, we dig deep into the research, we look at the models, we look at the science, and we're always signposting the practical application of this. Now let's look at your practice. Where can you really see that coming out for you? Think back on previous clients that you've worked with. What do you think might have been going on for them that actually would have been really helpful to have that lens at that time? Where were they on the dynamic? That I'm now noticing. So we're constantly kind of signposting how the practical applications of the research and the models as we go through this. So that is module 2. After module 2, there is a resilience ethics video. So we send you some videos throughout the programme. And as you can imagine with this work, the ethics of this work run throughout the programme, because you can find yourself working with people who are possibly coping through to fragmentation. And therefore, not only are you thinking ethically, which you will do anyway as a coach, but if you're going into this work deeper, you might find yourself with those kind of ethical considerations a bit higher up, is actually, am I okay to be coaching this person? How am I at the moment? How am I showing up for that person? And where is the intervention appropriate at this moment? So we look at kind of the ethical considerations, we debate it together, we challenge it. You go into different groups and you're given each a case study to really dig into this and think about the implications of the ethics of this work. And it's a key theme as well in the learning essay that you're expected to write at the end. You know, it's one of the 9 accreditation pointers of the accreditation as well. So module 3 is a shorter, more focused module where we really look at all the elements of the programme, because the aim of this programme is to make sure that you are a kind of safe pair of hands to practice this work when you go out into your clients. So you will have the license to use the materials that Jenny's just been through, the models, to be able to use that with your practice clients. And then to be able to kind of continue to use those, we expect these 9 criteria, very clear criteria, to be met through your learning essay and your submission at the end. So we will spend quite a lot of time. That's often a big Q&A session where people are kind of holding lots of things that are going on for them and really checking in that they're doing all the reflection. You know, this is a program where a lot of the hard work happens between the sessions. So the reflection, the what's going on for me, what am I noticing about myself, what am I noticing about my clients? So the more notes you do, the more reflection you do, the easier it gets when you come to write that essay at the end and have those conversations. So we really kind of just make sure that you feel really able to pass this at the end in that module. And then module 4 is where we introduce the second model that Jenny was talking about, the resilience engine. And really what we're looking at is how do those models integrate? So if you're looking at, say, somewhere on the resilience dynamic and somebody that's at bounce back, what is it in terms of the engine? Where is the smallest cog of that engine that actually may enable them to start moving up along that whoosh up to breakthrough? So we really dig into the resilience engine model. And through all of these modules, you get to work in pairs, in trios. We come back and have conversations and debate it as a group. So you really get to dig into the practical applications of this for yourself. But the resilience engine model is like Jenny just explained it, as the kind of nuts and bolts behind the resilience dynamic. So that's module 4. And then the final module, we really have some fun in this module because we get to play with the tools. So we take you through all the tools that are there to try. You get to choose 2 or 3 that you want to try out, and then you get into groups and we facilitate those. So you really start to think about the tools that you're using. What you'll notice through the program is that there's no expectation that you stop being the coach that you are. that you stop using the models, the tools that you've already used, that you stop, practicing and showing up in the way that you are. And you'll find that actually what the tools that you're using suddenly have a different kind of lens through them. So, for example, many of you will use values work. I use it a lot in my work. And suddenly I was using it through that lens of the resilience lens. What is it about values that are really uncomfortable at the moment for this person? What effect is that really having in terms of where they're at with their resilience? How could that close the gap? So you start to see the tools that you're already using and your approach through this resilience lens, and it can just really shift the energy that you bring into the room. So those are the 5 modules. Anything that I've missed, Jenny, before we move on? Okay. So the next slide.
Sorry.
That's all right.
What I would say is that these all happen towards the beginning. I mean, the program itself is 6 to 8 months. Okay, and these all happen within a fairly short period. So it's almost like the theory and the tools are up front, but then the rest of the program is actually really applying it. So it's a very practical program. There's lots of sort of discussion and group supervision and sharing and debating, as Rebecca said. So it doesn't just stop here. There's a lot. There's that. Yeah. So all these additional components is really what starts to kind of help you apply it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is when you've had all the theory and the models, that then the group supervision is just incredibly, so rich after you've been through that. So I'll take you through the additional components that you receive as somebody that's going through the accreditation program. So you're expected to have some practice one-to-one clients that you work with, a minimum of 4 hours engagement and then 4 hours of preparation. Some people just have one client, some people do that over a few clients, some people have many more hours, or they work with their existing clients. So there are many different formats and ways to do this, which we can work with you on. But that client work is a minimum of 4 hours one-to-one with a practice client or an existing client. The second one is group or team client work. And this can all start to kick in after module 2 to 3. So you can start to just find your one-to-one clients after you've done the first few modules. The group or team client work, and we purposely put group or team there because, yes, we have people coming into the program that are really experienced systemic team coaches and see this work as being another layer within their team coaching, and that's fantastic. Many people coming into the program aren't systemic team coaches, and therefore you can run this work with groups. So it's like a workshop format where you're really taking them through resilience and helping them to build resilience. So you're working with them as individuals in a kind of group dynamic. So there's a minimum of 3 hours engagement with groups or teams with 9 hours of preparation. Some people work together on that, so they buddy up with somebody on the accreditation program. So if you're somebody that is very used to one-to-one coaching, we had a few people on this program who are like, I only do one-to-one, the group thing for me is out of my comfort zone. So they kind of combined forces together, found their clients, and actually said that was one of the transformational parts for them, because actually just took them into a whole different space of work and understanding of resilience in that group, in those group dynamics. And we do ask you to really reflect on that group work within the essay. So that is essential piece of work. And then you get the supervision as well. So you get 2 hours of individual supervision. So you get supervision with myself, with Anne, or with Alison, who's another really experienced faculty member. And that is to work through any of the challenges that's coming up. So you use it like you would any of your supervision that you would have in your own practice, to talk through any of the group work, the individual supervision. So you get that two hours worth of one-to-one supervision. And then the group supervision. So if you are going to sign up for the program, please make sure you put the group supervision's dates in your diary as well, because the richness that comes out of those group supervision sessions is incredible. So we ask people to bring case studies of work that they're currently working on, challenges that they might be facing, maybe a program that isn't quite going to plan that they want to kind of really chew over together. So those group supervision programs, and there's 3 90 minutes of those as well. So that's after the modules. So they run consecutively month after month. So yeah, if you are going to sign up to a program, please put them in your diary, because we expect you to kind of be on all three, and they're hugely insightful. I think they were some of my kind of biggest moments actually during the program, where Jenny really challenged me at some point, held a big old mirror up to how I was showing up as a coach in those sessions, and the impact that my own resilience and energy was having. So yeah, really, they can be really transformational. And then we use Slack for all our communication. So we build a community where we share learnings, we share all our information, people share articles, they ask questions. So it becomes a kind of peer supervision almost on Slack, which is fantastic. And we also do a Q&A session on Slack as well. And within this, actually, we haven't got that Jenny joins us for a guest faculty appearance. So you get to grill her on all of the research and the models, and anything maybe you're not understanding or you don't agree with or anything. So we encourage you all to come with your most challenging questions for Jenny to make her work for that. But it's always
You're getting your own back here, aren't you?
Yeah.
Please bring the worst one, it's the most tricky.
Yeah, so that's always a great session where you get to pick the brains of Jenny. And then in terms of the assessment, so what you have to deliver at the end, we ask for a positioning statement, which is about 600 to 1,000 words. And this is really where you talk about what is your definition of resilience? What does that really mean to you? And how is that going to be applied to the people that you work with? So how are you going to use what you have taken from the program into your work? How is that going to show up? How is that going to be helpful? How might you position it? So that's really to start you thinking about how are you going to take this work and market it out to help you start to do that in those right at the end of that of the program. And then the joys of a learning essay assignment. So 2,000 to 2,500 words. It seems like a lot, but actually the biggest challenge is trying to edit it all down, and we will not mark it if it's over those words. So we send it back. To be honest, that's largely because actually what we want to do is get people to really focus in on what they've learned. This is not about being picture perfect resilience coaches right from day one, because that work starts from the moment you finish the accreditation program. So this is really asking you to dig deep into what have you learned about yourself, what have you noticed about your resilience, what's the impact that you're having in a room with your clients, and then what have you noticed about the learning journey of your clients as well, the different interaction of the models. So that is an assessment that then you hand in either at the end of July or the end of August, or end of June, end of August.
End of June,
end of August. I've just finished marking some essays. And those essays really are such a personal reflection of yourselves. People often say, can you give us some examples? Can you send us some really good ones? And I just said, if I did that, you'd all trying to be shoehorned to be like that particular essay. I marked 2 essays recently. One was a systemic experienced team coach working with high-flying corporate teams. The other one was a walking coach working, with individuals, with teams. Their essays were both absolutely fabulous. I learned a huge amount just reading them. So different. You could not have got 2 different essays, both in terms of content, in terms of tone, in terms of style. So the whole program really is about encouraging you to bring yourself as a coach, as a practitioner into this program, and really thinking, how does this sit within me and my work? So that's the lens in which we really encourage you to bring into this program. And then finally, some evidence to say that you've done what you have. Not a reference, not to say how fabulous you are, just to say this coach has done X number of hours of coaching with me, just so we know you've done the work.
Great. And so I'm sort of just aware of time as we're ticking here. So we'll rattle through this one, Rebecca, and then over to Rudy, and maybe we'll take some questions straight up front. Oh no, well, let's do Rudy first.
Hold on. So I think the two key things really in terms of it's that you get 60 hours of ICF. We accredited as an ICF program, so that's fantastic, and 80 hours of CPD. And at the end of this, you get 3-year renewable license to use all of the resilience models that Jenny's just talked to you about, use the resilience dynamic questionnaire, be part of the community of practice. So yes, there's lots. This program doesn't stop the moment you hand your essay in. It then starts. There's regular CPD, there's the conference, there's the monthly get-togethers online. So, this is not a program where you come in, you do the work, you stop and disappear. It's just a fabulously supportive learning, continuation of learning over the years, for as many years as you want to be part of it. Hey, Rudy.
And all I would say is that obviously, sometimes you're busy and not necessarily connecting so much, and then other times you will. So, there's no requirement for, you to turn up all the time, but rather this is a community that's there for you in your practice and for your learning as you go along. So, thank you, Rebecca. Really sort of detailed view of all the aspects of the programme. Hope that's sort of answering some of your questions already. And then Rudy, over to you. And I'll just stop sharing actually.
Okay, well, good afternoon. I'm going to make it as brief as possible because I think it's important that you can ask some questions. But you have probably noticed the enthusiasm with which Rebecca and Jenny were talking to slides, but the slides were not that important as the enthusiasm. And if there's one experience I have, which is really top of mind, of having gone through the program and working with the material and philosophy, is that enthusiasm. So there is the program is, that's what I remember as well. What you saw from Rebecca and Jenny is exactly what I experienced doing the program. There is enthusiasm around not only the philosophy, there's enthusiasm around the tools, there's enthusiasm around what we can contribute to clients through the lens of resilience. So, I wanted to say that up front. And of course, then through that enthusiasm, and Jenny and Rebecca also having been in the program, she has already shared some of the stuff. But she said, wow, this was great, without her knowing that she was doing it. So I can confirm a few things and here and there maybe pick something out, right? I was drawn to the program two reasons. First of all, not dissimilar to what you all said at the beginning of this session, seeing clients struggling with complexity, not only individually, but also struggling within a system. And so I was looking for what I would call a novel approach. And I think it's still novel, what is going on currently. So Jenny was talking about the myths. I'm grown up with those myths because I had an executive career of a few decades. The myth of it's important to toughen up, it's important to be in control, it's important to be efficient, and then you will be resilient. Well, forget it, right? And that's what I found in the program. So when I looked at it, I thought, wow, this is novel, this is different. And because of its difference, I can see how I can bring something novel to clients and to organizations. Because clients and organizations are changing as well. The myths I was talking about, organizations start to see that those are myths. So there is a congruence between the program, content of the program, and what is going on in my case now in the corporate world, right? So I was attracted to definitely the definition as well, because it has to do with the capacity to, I would say, engage with change. So even my definition, even in coping or bounce back, or even the lower levels, let's say, of resilience, you're still engaging with change. So how are we engaging with change? It's not only on the whoosh that we're engaging with change, right? So that was something that attracted me. Now, confirmation of a few things. Yes, it is research-based, and clients like to understand where we come from, not only what do we believe in, but also what is the evidence, where's the research, and it is research-based. you've seen that the framework, the dynamic for me is a lot of things. I mean, the dynamic is a diagnostic. You don't even need a questionnaire, as a matter of speaking. You just look at it and you can position yourself on that dynamic. But not only is it a diagnostic, it's also, together with the engine, provides a lot of tools. And they're fabulous. They're simple, they're clear, they resonate, they're not complex. So I mean, that's fantastic. And the point that both Rebecca and Jenny were making is so true and definitely so important for me as an individual, is you stay who you are and you can integrate your knowledge, your vision, your tools, the way that you are being trained into those models. Me, for one, I'm not one that is very good at being told what I have to do, right? And the program is not, this is resilience, this is how we do it. And if you don't do it that way, I mean, then you're not a resilience coach. Forget it. Jenny was referring to that, and Rebecca as well. You can't not see it anymore, but how you're being trained up till now and how you will be trained how you will be training in the future, you can easily get this into those models and it becomes much more powerful. And that's what I like maybe the most. It's that integration. It's an integration model. It's not, this is what it is, right? So that's fantastic. Of course, I mean, I still remember the expertise of faculty. I mean, that's a given. But Rebecca was also referring to the methodology, and the methodology is fantastic. Referring to, you get content, you get reflection, you work one-on-one, you work in groups, you're being seen, you see the others. So the way in which it's designed is great, right? Impact it has had on me and still has on a personal level and a professional level. On a personal level, I'm a bit brought up in the philosophy of toughen up, be in control, doing is more important than being. I think I was once called a human doing. So the learning between doing and being, that clearly that distinction, which is being referred to in the program, really resonated with me. Professionally, what I've learned, and it's at the core of my practice now, is a difference between the wounded self and the celebrated self. So coming out of a corporate environment and working with senior executives, there is like this resonance and attraction to the celebrated self. People that sit on the whoosh, I mean, they're celebrated definitely in a corporate environment. What I've learned and still learning, it never finishes, is how do I show up and how am I a coach when I'm working with people that are particularly in breakdown, right? Breakdown to coping. I remember, Jenny, at one of the conferences, we were asked there were 4 corners in the room. And I said, this is the corner of breakdown, this is coping, this is bounce back, and this is being on the whoosh. This is really breakthrough. Where do you resonate the most? And I immediately went into that corner with a celebrated self, right? And I don't need to learn that. What I've learned through the program and through the community is how do I show up when clients are in that different level of resilience, right? Last thing, the support. The program is only the beginning. So I'm just referring to 4 things that I like. I mean, there is the supervision, there is the intervision sessions on a Wednesday where practitioners learn from each other, right? There are the CPD, I think we call it, CPD sessions. We had recently one on neurodiversity and resilience. We had one on systemic thinking and resilience. We had one on teams and resilience. I mean, there's 4 of them, I think, Jenny, 4 of them a year. There is the conference. We recently had the conference a few weeks ago, which was on the future of work. Very interesting. And then, of course, I mean, there's the website. There's the portal, there's the website with all the materials that are there. So I'll finish with how I started. This is an enthusiastic community. This is not a knowing community. This is a learning community. And I think that's the essence of the whole thing. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this, right?
Lovely. Thank you so much, Rudy. I am aware of time. We've probably, with our enthusiasm, taken up quite a lot of time. I'm wondering what questions remain in your head. Well, hopefully we've answered a few of them. But anyone, just come in.
A practical question, if I may. I came to this webinar today through AOEC, and I see that you're an accredited partner with AOEC. How does that work, and what does that add to your practice?
Yeah, so we've partnered with the AOEC for many, many years, actually, and we continue to do so. So the whole programme is obviously a coach for coaches, and particularly those who are senior there. The AOEC have their core programmes, and they have been interested in this work for a long time, but aren't specialists in it. And so the partnership makes a lot of sense, is that we can actually assist those who are, have gone through the practitioner or, the advanced or the STD with them. And actually they can add this lens in, and it provides a sort of coach pathway. It's part of a coach pathway. So I think we have a very win-win relationship around it, where they see us absolutely honouring the level of quality that the AOEC can deliver, as but are specialists within this arena. Does that make sense, Paula?
Perfectly, thank you.
Any more for any more?
Just a quick question, forgive me because I don't remember, but your ICF development unit. So just remind me, if you wanted to go to accreditation, what does that mean? Is there anything you should be doing before engaging with a program like this?
So that's an interesting question. I mean, for you, Liz, I know that you're already sort of very experienced as an internal practitioner. So we don't require you to have had an accreditation tick. Okay, what we require is the equivalent experience of. So it might be an ACC level, association for coaching and EMCC have slightly different sort of nomenclature, but your first level coaching accreditation with further experience. You might already be a professional coach, you might be a master coach, you might not have that accreditation but actually have qualifications that are coaching, that then you have a vast experience, if you like, as an OD practitioner. So we don't require you to have an accreditation, but we do require you to be experienced.
I guess I was sort of thinking about, because it's a new sort of a team accreditation, isn't there, and going on, and just how it fits with all those things that are always changing as well.
Absolutely. So every accrediting body has their own ways of doing things. And what we do know that the 60 hours is already ICF accredited. So for example, if you're renewing your PCC or something like that, you can literally just choose it off their website and go tick, and the AC and EMCC would whilst it's not already pre-accredited, they would absolutely recognize those 60 hours. So I can't speak to the specifics of any updated ICF, I'm afraid.
Yeah. No, it's a difficult one.
It's a navigation of which route to follow. I get that, and happy to chat about that offline if you want some specific advice. Any more? Just wondering where you land, having heard quite a lot from us about the programme and the market, and then Rudy's experience of this. So yeah, just what are your thoughts?
Thank you, guys. My question was, when do we start? But that's kind of the one I always end up asking, and then I end up going, well, what's my capacity to really keep up with these? Because I know Anne very well. Just been with her with 2 days in Brussels actually, and I'm also playing with the conversational intelligence piece, having done the systemic team coaching last year. So I love the way this integrates. I've used energy management from the Jim Lure and Tony Schwartz work. I've worked with Anne bringing it to Deloitte, your work anyway. So I'm familiar, and it is a bit of an if not now when for me. So I'll likely join. When is it starting? Yeah.
Rebecca, you're on mute.
Beginning of February, Hugh. So
Okay. Well,
come join us.
Not next week, is it?
Not next week. And one of the things that we have maintained since COVID is that it's all delivered virtually. And we actually find that, because we used to sort of cram it more, and actually the drip feed of the half-day virtuals is actually really helpful for assimilating and trying things out. So it's more easy for people, I think, than it used to be to come in and join in. And then the other thing, Hugh, about finding clients is that if you've got existing clients, you can contract, you know, for doing some resilience specific work, and so it can fit in quite naturally to your coaching anyway. So hopefully you wouldn't be having to do something particularly that's new, but rather embed it into or try it out with some of your existing client work.
No problem. So, thank you.
No
Good to
problem.
meet you.
Any more? It is 1 o'clock on the hour, but I just was interested to know if any other thoughts or where you're landing.
Like you, I think it's kind of not an if, it's when, isn't it? So thank you. That was a really interesting hour. Thank you very much indeed.
Lovely, lovely. Well, we're in your service. I've put up Katie's email, katie.smith@resilienceengine.com. You already have that probably from the communication around the open event. Anyone who's watching, you are welcome to ask any other question you've got. Sometimes it's just nuts and bolts and, you know, what if I can't do one thing, or, you know, what do I do about a group work, or whatever it is, you know, you're really, really welcome. We would love you to come into the programme, and we look forward to hearing what your views are. Okay, so go well, may your resilience be with you. And you know, hope the afternoon is excellent for you. Thanks so much for coming in live.
Wonderful hour.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.